Welcome to the final episode of the Grow With Sophia series. There is a trigger warning on this one because it is highly emotional. There are discussions of child loss and Sophia's final moments. All images of Sophia's final 6 days when she was sick will be blurred, and there are no images of her after her death. These are moments that we will always keep private. Any images shared during the discussion of her death will be flashbacks of her when she was healthy. Welcome to the final and 10th episode of the Grow With Sophia series. I started out this series with the very first time that I held my daughter, and I will end the series with the very last time that I held my daughter. This has probably been the most difficult episode to record, but I want to share her entire life with you, and that was my goal when I started the series after she died. I knew that I didn't want her memory and her impact on this world to die with her. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to get to know my daughter, and I hope it's opened your eyes and your hearts and made you more accepting of others with facial differences and disabilities. My daughter lived for 10 and a half years, so it felt appropriate to end the series at the 10th episode. And I don't know if I will continue the series with different educational videos or if I'm done, but I've always tried to, ever since Sophia's death, follow what feels right and not push myself or force myself. The grief can make things complicated, and I wanted to be as gentle with myself as possible. So I wanted to backtrack a little bit. I shared some of the things at the 9th episode, and the start of the beginning of the end for my daughter was when she had a surgery to remove a kidney stone.
I wish that
We want to be all done.
I know, you'll be in the car soon, going home.
I think I see them. Okay? Mommy's gonna be right here when you wake up, okay?
And Daddy, by the way.
And Daddy, but Mommy will be in your face. So you're gonna do great, okay? Yeah? You my strong girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got nothing to worry about, okay, sweet girl? Okay? And it caused catastrophic damage.
It's hard for me to remember the details around this time. It's like there's a bit of a fog in my mind that's maybe helping to protect me from the memories. So I remember her body was not recovering like it once did.
And we would have to replace stents every couple of months. And I think it was the 5th stent removal that she did not wake up from surgery for 3 days and started to have respiratory failure, and it was impacting her organs. And one of her specialists reviewed everything that was going on, and he believed that globally her body was changing and it was exhausted. When I realized that her body was getting tired, I remembered the promise I made to her, and that was to always listen to what her body was telling me, which meant it was time to stop medical intervention. I remember sitting in the hospital room when she wasn't waking up, and we finally got to take her home, but I felt stuck in that hospital room. And I kept returning to that moment, and I was reminded that I had to keep the promise, and now was the time.
Not recovering from a surgery was really scary. And if that's what the future was going to be, then that's not living, and that's not acceptable for her. And we had a very difficult conversation about what to do next, and bringing back in our hospice care and basically saying goodbye to future medical procedures.
It was the hardest decision to make. It was in January that she had that surgery, and I remember in February really realizing that we needed to bring hospice in to our home to set things up. And I honestly thought we had a year left with Sophia, And I think my mind was just trying to protect itself in order to survive and to get through it. But we only had months. And when I was looking back at these videos, I was struck at just how positive I seem.
That's a sweet laugh. You gonna hit the camera? Yeah, get them! Get the bubbles! Get the bubbles!
And I think it's because when I made that decision, I really wanted to focus on my daughter living fully. We slowly took out the medications that would make her tired, and she was more alive and awake than she had been in a really long time. She was verbalizing, and she really enjoyed her bucket list experiences. And thanks to the community that surrounds us, she was able to have some really beautiful experiences.
I do remember being excited about the adventures. I remember as they were being booked and scheduled, it was exciting to think about her with the medicine out of her system, being able to really kind of fully experience some what we would call normal things, but for her were amazing adventures.
What are you thinking about, Sos? Yeah. You just wait. You've been awake for hours and hours and talking.
There were many things that Sophia couldn't do because it put her life at risk with her rare immune deficiency. But when we made the decision to have a bucket list, the community really supported us and helped us come up with some beautiful ideas. And so for the very first time, she went to a salon and was able to get the salon experience, her hair wash. She got green highlights. It was her choice that they were green, of course, because that was her favorite color for her entire life. And she really enjoyed the experience. And the kids were involved as well, which was so beautiful to do as a family.
I remember she had that clip-in hair that they had put in that was greenish, bluish green. I still have it up in my office. I think she had a good day.
What color do you want to do your nails?
Green.
Oh, don't say. I told you. I knew you were gonna say green.
Is that green?
Okay, what if you could dye your hair any color? What would it be? Green again? Come on.
We did small things like walk to our community lake and have her watch the sunset. And I still go to that same spot and watch the sunset. And it's a really beautiful way to connect with Sophia.
I remember the movie theater was special because it was during the day and it was just us in the room, and I got a chance to sit in a big leather chair and hold her and watch the movie for a while. And we took turns holding her during that day. And I remember the cinema manager was really nice and gave us the poster of the movie, and I have that up in my office now. I see it every day.
We just had a lot of fun together as a family, having bubble parties and doing all the little things that Sophia enjoyed doing. Also had hospice in our home. It's a program called Kids Path, and they were really wonderful. Someone who played the harp would come in, and someone brought their therapy dog. And they also had a counselor for the kids to prepare them for losing their sister. And we also got to do things like make hand molds and fingerprints together. And those are some of the things that I cherish the most now that she's gone, that I have, are her fingerprints and a mold of her hand. And it was beautiful to have that type of support. We also took Sophia to her favorite place, and that was the mountains in North Carolina. And we got to spend a long weekend there, feeling peaceful and relaxing and taking naps together. There were so many people that wanted to do things for Sophia and send her things and She got beautiful messages and drawings and artwork of Sophia. And there was this woman who had a doll like me, and she made dolls for children with facial differences and disabilities so that they could have a doll that looked like them. And so, for the very first time in Sophia's life, she had a doll that looked like her, and she loved it so much. It had a colostomy, a feeding tube, just like her, and this doll went on adventures with us, and Sophia would just hold on to her. Little did I know it would be extremely therapeutic for my kids to have once their sister was gone. And Lila and Alex would take turns sleeping with the Sophia doll, and Lila would dress her up and play with her and take her out on the trampoline together. And we still have her, and it's a beautiful memory to share and to know that this little doll went along with Sophia during all of her final adventures. I also knew that I would want things that reminded me of Sophia around the house when she was gone, and so we planted a flowering bush in our backyard, and every year around the time that Sophia and I planted it, it will bloom, and it's just a beautiful reminder of Sophia and their bright red blooms, and it just reminds me that she's still with us. Another beautiful adventure that we had was going to a roller skating rink. They opened private for us, and they played all of her favorite music, Taylor Swift and Katy Perry, and we just spent over an hour just wheeling her around in her wheelchair on the floor and lights going, and it was just such a beautiful experience. She was really awake and alive for all of these adventures and became more and more talkative because the medications that would stop seizures or other things, were out of her system. Another beautiful adventure we got to have was to take her to the Charlotte Symphony during one of their rehearsals. So we got to sit on the balcony and watch them rehearse just for her. And at the end, they all said something beautiful to her and clapped, and they gave her a card signed by all of them. And it was just another beautiful experience. And we were really focused on just spending all of our time with Sophia as much as we could. And like I said in the past, when I thought we had a year, and I think it was just my way of being able to survive and focus on her living and being positive and moving forward and being a mom to my kids and continuing on. But I really didn't know how long we had. Every day we lived as though it was her last. And as we had promised Sophia, we were getting to the point where her final stent was going to be removed. We had to wait long enough for her body to recover from the last one, since she almost didn't wake up from it. But Sophia knew that this was going to be the last time at the hospital, the last time dealing with doctors and needles and pain. She was very positive and happy.
Hi. Are we about to have your very last surgery ever?
It was really bittersweet for Mark and I, because it was so wonderful to see her feeling so good and being so happy and awake and positive, but knowing that this was the last time was really hard. But I was determined to keep my promise to her, and we were still hopeful that everything had healed and that she would be okay. I still had it in the back of my mind. And she did great having the stent removed, and she was so happy on the way home, and we were celebrating that it was her final time leaving the hospital, that she would never have to return to a hospital ever again.
Sorry to wake you up so
Later, Levine Children's Hospital. We're done. No more hospitals, no more doctors. None.
It was really important that I stayed positive and happy for Sophia, no matter how much pain I felt and knowing what it meant. She also had a miniature pony come and visit and got to pet it, and we got to watch it run around and kick a ball, and Sophia really enjoyed this experience. Everyone was so loving and generous and supportive. But I think Sophia's favorite experience was the private tour of the Mint Museum. She was so animated the entire time, and she was directing me which piece of artwork to go and vocalizing, and really happy to be there and to be able to hold her and show her different pieces of artwork. She was just so interested in it and really enjoyed it.
What do you think?
Like that blue one, Sophie?
You want to look at the blue one? Okay, I'll get you over there. I will get you over there. Here we go. There we go. You like that? That's awesome.
What do you think of that? Ooh, look, you see there's mud.
So cool.
This one's got mirrors.
Here we go. Let's look.
Mirrors.
Ooh, this is so pretty and lots of green, Sophia.
And Sophia's final experience, and we didn't know at the time that it was her final experience, was a private tour of the Georgia Aquarium.
I mean, I think she really enjoyed that adventure. It stands out in my mind as well.
And we got to go behind the scenes and see whales and seals and penguins, and Sophia really enjoyed this experience.
But again, the way she'd always bounced back and was so strong, I think part of me also thought there'd be at least 5 or 10 more adventures that we could experience together. And I wish I could have spent every day with her.
Sophia had some other experiences lined up that she didn't get to have, and Lily Pulitzer at the mall near us offered for her to come to the mall, and I remember canceling because she just seemed like she was tired and I needed to give her a break. We had been going back-to-back adventures and having a lot of fun, and like I said, she was so positive and happy and talkative, and then I just noticed a small decline with her energy levels and thought we should take a little break. We also had a flight on a private jet scheduled, and then throughout this time we had been planning a Winnebago adventure across the United States for Sophia, and Winnebago so graciously offered us a accessible Winnebago for an entire month, and we were really excited about this adventure. But I remember it was Friday, and I remember this picture I took of Sophia with some big sunglasses on. And when I took the picture and looked at it, I thought her color seemed a little off and she was really lethargic. And that night she started to get a little sick. And for the final days, for 6 days, she was sick. And with each day, her breathing became more and more labored.
I remember her when hospice came in, and we were up in her room. We went out and got a really comfy chair, like a recliner that we could all be with her and sit with her. And we all took turns holding her. I'm not sure she slept in her bed that much that week.
And hospice nurse would come in and check on her, and We gave her antibiotics and medications to try to stop whatever infection was happening. And Sunday came around and she got worse. And then I remember by Wednesday realizing that this was the end. It took my mind and body some time to accept that her life was coming to an end. And I remember that she, despite the antibiotics, was getting worse. And I remember the nurse talking to the doctor and him saying, give them the opportunity if they want to take her to the hospital. Ask them, one more time. And I knew that I had to keep my promise to my daughter. I knew that she would either die peacefully surrounded by everyone who loved her in our home, or if we took her to the hospital, she might die in a hospital room or an operating room, or if she did somehow recover, she would be met with more surgeries, more pain, only for the ending to be the same. I had to say no, that we were not taking her to the hospital, that I was keeping my promise to her, and we would continue down the path and the choices that we had made. And that was the hardest moment, knowing that that was the point of no return. We kept the house peaceful and we had beautiful music playing. We played her favorite Taylor Swift songs.
Wednesday, I finally realized that it wasn't going to be much longer. And I just wanted to be with her as much as I could.
And when Thursday came around, I knew we were getting closer. And so we all just spent as much time as possible holding her. And I remember it became nighttime, and I somehow instinctively knew that this was her final day. And I held her, and I remember Sophia's nurse aide that had been with us since she was 2 years old. She was there, and she said, Natalie, why don't you lay her in her bed? And I remember I didn't want to. I resisted for a little bit, but I had been holding her for hours. And she said, why don't you lay her in her bed? She loves her bed. She'll be comfortable in there. Get her changed. And so I thought it was a good idea at that point. And so I remember putting her in the bed and changing her, and I decided to get in bed next to her. And everyone decided to leave the room to give us our own space. And I remember cuddling with her, as I did often. And then the moment I pulled the blankets over her and she was kind of laying as she always did, I knew that the breaths she was taking were different. And so I yelled to everyone that was there that she was taking her final breaths. Please come.
I remember I knew it was going to be a long night, so I went to try to lay down at around 10, and not a few minutes later, somebody came and got me and basically said, this is it. And I went back into the room, and she was struggling to breathe, and it was getting fainter. And I just got really close to her and gave her a hug and a kiss. I held her hand.
And the people who were closest to Sophia were there with their hands on her, giving her love as she took her final breath.
It must have been around 10:30 or 10:45, and I think we were all around her, and she took her final breath, and we all just kind of stood with her and laid beside her and just wanted to hold her one more time.
I laid next to her for a little bit, and I felt like I needed to ask permission to leave her side. And I jumped from her bed and fell to the floor on my knees, crouched in a ball, screaming and crying for for what felt like hours.
I was comforting her as best I could, but it was hard, and she was crying and wailing, and just never heard that before. So, but there was nothing else that she could do at this point. So I think we had to convince her to leave and just get out of the room and just lay down.
All the strength that I held and found for Sophia was gone in an instant, and I couldn't be strong for her anymore. And once I was pulled off the floor, after about an hour of screaming and wailing, I sat in a chair next to her bed. And when I knew that the nurse was coming and the funeral home was going to be coming, I had to say my goodbyes, and I had to say my goodbyes. And I had to go into my room and turn the sound machine on because I knew it would be torture watching them take her from our home. I really think Sophia was waiting to die when she was no longer in my arms, because I'm not sure I would have been able to let her go. And I think she knew that.
And I was able to call the nurse. I called and said that she needed to come and just help us with the next step. And by that point, it was probably 11:30 when she got there, and she, confirmed that she was no longer here. And I remember staying with Sophia until the funeral home director showed up, and I let him in the door, and we went back upstairs, and I was able to hold her. I carried her down the stairs. And then we put her in the gurney and made sure she was strapped in nice and safe. We took her to the car. So once she was in the car and strapped in, I followed them to the funeral home and made sure that she was in a safe place. But the night she passed away, I felt this burst and surge of energy, and I just want to believe that it was her leaving her physical body and just coming into mine. And so it makes me happy to think that there's still something of her inside me whenever I think about those last minutes. Other than the memories that we have, which are great as well.
And I remember waking up the next morning and I was completely gone. It's a complete emotional, physical, mental breakdown that you have as a parent when your child dies. It was the worst pain that I felt emotionally, which turned into physical pain, and I honestly thought I would not survive. And for these last 5.5 years, I have had to rebuild myself into a different person.
Life without Sophia is like a part is like missing, basically, because when I used to go home, she used to like call my name out and stuff, which I don't hear that anymore, so it kind of feels like different. At first I didn't really like understand it, so like it wasn't that sad, but as I grow up, it gets like harder because like I understand like what really happened more. And it's hard because everybody around me has like their sister growing up, but it's just different. But I can deal with it pretty good.
It was hard to lose a sister because I always thought that she was gonna have my back, and we would always like do fun things together until and she'd be at like my wedding and when I have my first kid. It's also hard because I don't remember much things about her because I was only like 5. I miss that she's missing out on me growing up and trying out new things. Like I just started cheer and she doesn't get to see that.
You trying to knock her drink? Good job, Sos. gonna get her. Oh, get your sister. Yay! Are you getting your sister?
She's like getting my sister. She's like, and it literally was like that. Get me, it doesn't hurt.
Is that funny to you that you're getting your sister?
We had to learn to move forward as a different type of family, which took time, and there were difficulties and bumps in the road, but we did figure it out. And that Winnebago trip that we had planned for Sophia, Winnebago graciously offered us to continue on the trip and to be able to spend an entire month in nature traveling across the US, honoring Sophia's life was a beautiful and healing thing. I miss my daughter every day, and I try to honor her by living my life through the lessons that she taught me. I remember trying to rebuild myself in the beginning, thinking that I needed to go back to the fierce advocate that I was for her, but that person no longer existed, and I had to find a new path. And it needs to be a lot more gentle because of what I had been through. I want to thank you all for loving my daughter and seeing her, truly seeing her beyond the facial differences and seeing the beauty that she carries and the impact that she can have and the ways that she can change your lives. Sophia had a huge impact on my life and so many of you. She really changed me into a better person. She showed me the importance of unconditional love and acceptance and living life to the fullest and trying to live in the moment, even though it can be really hard. I just want to thank you all for your support and thank you for loving my daughter. It means the world to me. And thank you for keeping her memory and impact alive.
2, 3.
Oh, Sophie did it! Good job, Sophia! Bouncy bounce ball.
I would tell the world is like probably that she was just like always happy, and like she always brightened people's day. So like people who like look at her and like make a judgment, I feel like they should probably get to know her more because she was actually a happy and nice person.
You want me to do it again? Yeah?
In loving memory of my sweet Sophia. Sophia may be gone, but her memory will never be forgotten. Thank you all for helping me keep my daughter's memory and impact on this world alive. If you would like to support the work that we do, you can make a donation in Sophia's memory to www.sophias-voice.com, where we will continue to raise awareness about facial differences and disabilities, as well as help others pay medical expenses.